Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Welcome to today's Minisode. We got a question in from a Powrsuiter. How can I connect with, as in build relationships, with my new coworkers in a remote environment? We know how important relationships are. We've chatted about that quite a bit, Nat. And it is even harder in a remote and or hybrid workplace.
It's also more important because when you are working remotely, you don't have that, if you don't have that personal connection, it's so easy to have misunderstandings and conflict to build or tension to rise. And you don't have that sort of casual banter. And, you know, we all know that text can be so misconstrued and madly slacking each other or teamsing each other, that it is so important to build that sort of friendly relationship, or at least respectful relationship as well, so you're not interpreting things weirdly.
And I think if anything, COVID has proved, and all the lockdowns, that we can. So there is actually no need to be in the office to build and forge strong relationships. So today we're going to give all sorts of tips and hacks to do just that, because increasingly, if we're not in a remote first world, we certainly are in a hybrid first world. And to your point, really important to forge those relationships. And so we're going to make it easy. In 15 minutes, because it is a minisode.
So we're just going to do one after the other with tips.
Yeah, we are. And I thought it would be interesting to, first of all, highlight setting goals and the importance of that. You know, we're going to give all sorts of tips and hacks, but it's a bit loosey-goosey unless we actually are deliberate about setting a goal per week, because then you can try all these things as it relates to your goals. So I would suggest to set a goal to connect with 1 to 2 new people in your workplace. Doesn't have to be your department, could be totally different business unit. In fact, it should be. Could be all sorts of different levels, from those that are junior in the organization right up to senior leadership teams, executive leadership teams. But set a goal to connect with 1 to 2 new people each week as a starting point.
I actually also like that idea of meeting people from complementary teams. I was having this conversation yesterday about a team where it's sort of gotten, what's the word? It's almost like they all misunderstood each other, and they've all misunderstood each other, and sort of these little dynamics have formed where there's sort of teams within teams and people who talk to other people more than others. And, you know, we've all been there where we can create these stories in our heads about conflict or about people not working or pulling their weight or whatever else it is. That this is such an easy way to learn more about your colleagues and build respect for the work they do as well. On top of the joy of having networks, what we tend to find is when you connect with people who do other work, you get a real respect for it. So it sort of shortcuts a lot of other issues that can arise where you sort of flick work to other people, or they flick work to you without understanding how busy you are or what goes into it. Really, so I would say on top of that goal is maybe start with really specifically the people who you interact with, maybe not every day, but who you rely on to do work or rely on their part of the chain as well. And so you can sort of build understanding of each other.
And especially as an individual contributor role, if you are an individual contributor, you are heavily relying on other people across the organization to deliver you work. And this can be anything from project management or to organizing resource or projects within your organization. And it's so interesting that you have no direct influence over people. Therefore, building those relationships is, well, it's strategic, isn't it? It's like so important in getting your job done and success for you. And the second thing I'd say is, if you are a people leader, look to your team and figure out if they are building connections across, because they are not necessarily in a position of power. They might not have that manager title, but you should be encouraging them to foster and build relationships across the organization.
And self-leadership, model what you expect. Make sure you're meeting with your colleagues across the business too, and you're fostering really productive, helpful relationships. Not that, you know, it's very easy to fall on the trap of being like, marketing didn't do this, or product didn't do this, or finance didn't do this, and really start to think of yourself as a team through forging these relationships. So should we crack in? Do you want to do the first way?
Let's crack in. And each of these should only take like anything from 2 to 15 minutes. So
yeah,
I'm
I love
huge
that.
fan. If you've got 1 to 2 new people each week. We're talking max half an hour for networking, which supports some of our most recent articles in our newsletter as well. So, okay, so on that front, I am actually going to start with a little bit of a controversial one, and this is have your video on during meetings.
Is this controversial?
It is controversial.
Why?
Because some people are in the habit of just showing up and having that auditory experience. Is that the right
Are
word?
they though? Like, I genuinely feel like
Yeah.
if you, like, absolutely sometimes, like if you're doing washing or something while listening and you're not an active contributor, fine, leave your video off. But I just think that's unacceptable.
I totally agree as a leader.
It's just so checked
I thought
out.
it was rude. I thought it was rude.
Yeah.
So if someone's video's off, there's two things that come to mind. Number one, you're either checked out, you're not engaged, or number two, you probably don't need to be in this meeting.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those with your video off, we would highly encourage you to turn your video on for that sense of interest, engagement, contributing to the meeting, or just get the transcript from the meeting after the fact.
I so agree. And also, like, you can say up front, I'm going on a walk or I'm driving during this. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Totally fine on occasion.
Yeah.
But I think we've just proven already the value of having your video on, because as senior leaders, we are judging. Like, you are watching your team with their videos off going, are you here?
Yeah.
Are you interested? Are we interrupting your life with this meeting?
Yeah.
So it actually does have a perception with, I mean, I don't know if everyone agrees. Obviously not. It's controversial. I do. I'm going to jump to one of my favorites, which is virtual coffee breaks. We did this at Hatch and I loved it. And we did a roulette sort of round robin style thing where you got connected with just one colleague who you may not have worked with much, and between you organized a one-on-one, and the only job was to chat. And so I learned about travel experiences, board game hobbies, like all these incredible things that made my teammates three-dimensional, not just the person I went to for X, but these incredibly interesting people. And again, the more you get to know them, the more you like them, the more you want to work with them, the more productive the workplace gets.
And you can be really deliberate in actually asking people, or it can be via spreadsheet and in terms of who have I met and who would I like to still meet, or you can use tools like Donut, for example, that's in Slack. I trust that Teams and Zoom have.
I think there's Orbit. I've used
great.
Orbit to connect with other startup founders too, which is its own
amazing
thing.
And that's that roulette thing of like, you're matching with this person, and just go ahead and do a 15-minute call and practice your small talk and practice getting to know another human.
15 minutes, you can get a lot done. We do a lot of 15-minute calls. If you are nervous about that, the other piece of advice I would give you is ask 3 questions when you line up the meeting. So, what's one thing that's top of mind for you this week? What did you want to be when you grew up? All those icebreaker questions. Send them those beforehand so you've got a little bit of a structure, because I know some people find it a bit stressful to turn up cold and just have that. And you can go off it if you want to. You don't have to stick with it, but you've just got a little bit of a comfort blanket, and comfort questions.
Absolutely. We promise everyone loves chatting about themselves, so it's always an easy start. Okay, I'm going to use another kind of obvious one, but underutilized one, and this is use LinkedIn. So yes, this is a platform outside of your workplace. I get it. It's probably outside of Teams or Slack or whatever you're using, but connect with colleagues once you've met with them. So it could be that you've had a brief interaction in a meeting. It could be that you did one of these 15-minute calls. It could be you bumped into one another when you were in person in the office. Connect with them after the fact in LinkedIn, because it adds a little bit more flavor to who you are. I guarantee you, when you connect with them, they'll stalk you and they'll go, oh, that person's done this and this. And people are always looking for connection and commonalities, and they'll be looking for that too.
LinkedIn's great for that, with the who your connections are, your history. You'll find so many things that you might have in common. Be proactive. And this is one that I love. No one makes you feel more special than someone who follows up with you and says, I think you might like this. And we encourage all Powrsuiters to do this, even amongst the membership as well. If you know you've got a common interest, like we've got hobbies and interests channel in Powrsuit, and people share about their painting hobby, or hobby, it's a business. One of our Powrsuiters is an incredible artist, or golfing or sports, there's running, and actually share through those hobbies or interests articles, podcasts, book recommendations. It is so nice when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I was listening to this podcast and thought of you, Here is a link to it. Go forth and enjoy. I also think this one's really important for normalizing women turning our connections into career enhancing connections. Normalize when you do something that's valuable or hear something that you think someone might feel useful or find an opportunity or come across something cool. Normalize sharing it with someone who will find it useful. This is how you lift each other up as well.
Yeah. Love that one. I am going to join or start a personal interest channel. So you can scan the channels that already exist in your organization. Most have them. And there will be probably some personal interest channels, like it could be music, it could be pets, it could be
Cocker Spaniel Club.
Yeah, it could be sourdough society. So there will be probably some personal interest channels that are set up. If you share those interests, join them. If there's one thing that you love to do, it could be ocean swimming, it could be, I don't know,
watching
hiking.
Netflix. Actually, that's not terrible. Just TV shows. Yeah,
movie TV recommendations.
I accidentally stumbled on a great recommendation through my laziness.
Did you?
Netflix, watching streaming.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
a really great connection.
Yeah,
People love TV.
It's a great hobby. So go ahead and start one. Don't be shy. Go ahead and start a channel and then basically raise awareness. Communicate that you've started the channel in the general or the team comms thing and go, hey, I've just started a thing where we can share movie and TV show recommendations, and join. And
I'll
this
join.
This is a great way to build relationships with your colleagues.
Love it. Next one, Lunch and Learned. We actually in Melbourne last week went out with an old colleague of ours, and they've instigated a variation of this. I think it's a morning version where she's like, we just get Gen Z to share great food locations and new cool things happening in Melbourne. And she was semi-joking, but she was actually being serious that you can get, we talk a lot about market intelligence, you can get so much insight from the wider lives of the people you work with. So the other funny one I've heard of this is PowerPoints, where people bring a 15-minute PowerPoint on a topic they love. So it could be completely random. 10 reasons why Taylor Swift should be the first billionaire musician only to make her money from music only. Whatever it is, you'll learn something. But I think it could be skills as well. What's a project you've just delivered? What's a skill you've learned? I know a lot of Powrsuiters actually, after they've got their membership, often do a organization get together where they share one thing they've learned from Powrsuit, or actually what it was like, in case other people want to join. So these things are so easy to organize. Bring your own lunch or do it at morning tea and just get someone to share their story or something of value. You learn so much, but also it's a really nice way to come together. And if you're doing it virtually, which we are talking about, it's so much easier to just get the whole team together from around the world. It could be about your different countries. It could, like whatever it is.
Yeah. And I'm going to take that down one level into meetings. So say you've got a weekly team meeting, or there's a wider business unit meeting each month, or whatever that looks like. I would suggest that you suggest two things to the meeting organizer. One is that you start with a bit of an icebreaker. And so if the group is not too large, I would definitely suggest start with that, where everyone has to answer a question. You can Google them, you can use ChatGPT. There's lots of great icebreakers that you can use. And the second way, it's kind of the same thing as an icebreaker, is if it ends up being a big group, nominate someone to share a tip of the day or put your hand up, or suggest you do a round robin style where at each meeting a couple people will share tips of the day. And that is that kind of lunch and learn thing, but at the start of a meeting where you're like, I'm learning about, I don't know, deep breathing right now and how it lowers your heart rate. And so I would suggest at the start of any presentation or any stressful thing, 3 deep breaths brings your blood pressure down. It brings your stress levels down. So resets your nervous system. So you're bringing a bit of knowledge of stuff you're reading into the meeting that is going to benefit other people as well.
I love it. I'm going to do morning quiz time because this is something that I was deeply wrong about. I used to think this was such a waste of time and we did this during lockdown when our team was growing, and it was a self-organized thing that they had to invite every morning for 15 minutes and anyone who wanted to join would join. And I was always initially like, what a waste of time. We are so busy. What are they doing? And then about a year later, anyone who'd participated in that, they would flippantly drop things like such and such a brain box, knows everything about X or Y, always turns up every morning with a coffee or whatever, like whatever their name was and whatever they did. And I just realized, wow, was I wrong? This is such a great way for people to get to know each other and learn about each other and share in a very fun, engaging way, just 15 minutes of get-together time. So I was terribly wrong on that, but huge fan now. If you've got, I don't know, the New York Times does it. There's like a bunch of different really silly 15-minute quizzes. Lock it in and do it even once a week.
Yeah, get on video call and do the quiz together. We absolutely recommend it.
Also team building, because you get really competitive and people want to, they get really excited about it. It's brilliant. It's such a win.
And then you start relying on people for certain themes. Catch up with people on LinkedIn once you've met them. I'm going to say the same thing with DMs inside of the organization. If you have heard something interesting from a meeting, if you've met someone in a 15-minute, follow up with a direct message where it's like, I really like that thing that you shared. This is really interesting. Or you can share podcast, books, whatever recommendation. I heard that you're interested in this. Or just say, hey, it was really great meeting you. Let's stay in touch. I can offer value in this way. And so keep me in mind, should you need da-da-da. So again, be proactive and use direct messaging after anytime you've had a meaningful interaction or you've picked up something.
Love it. Can I not finish with my favorite one?
Okay.
I think you should all join Powrsuit together.
Oh.
And I say that because we hear this from our partners that are like, we now see this group of 5-10 women get together every week and go into a meeting room together and watch a masterclass and then chat about it. And your employer will love you. These partners are blown away by these ambitious women getting together and making progress on their careers together. They see this as a huge strategic benefit to someone, but also the people themselves are having a great time because they are learning together and improving together and holding each other accountable. And all of that means you create this really tight-knit unit in your team. That seems like a sales pitch. It's not. It's just we didn't even expect people to do that. They were just doing it and it's brilliant.
What better way to break down barriers between colleagues? So please do. That's amazing. Check out powrsuit.com. All of these above should really be supported by your company. So yes, it's taking micro moments away from work, but this is work, forging those relationships so you can get stuff done. It benefits the organization. So just go for it. Make sure you block that time. Try some of these things. If you've got some ideas, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And that's us for this week. We'll chat soon.
Bye.